If you really want to be fluent in English, subscribe us. Learning English has been one of the most challenging and rewarding journeys of my life. When I started, English felt like a language from another world. I couldn't understand anything, but I knew it was important. Everyone said English would open doors, help me connect with people from around the world, and lead me to better opportunities. At first it was overwhelming, and I often wondered if it was worth the struggle. But something inside me kept pushing, whispering, "Keep going." In the beginning, every word I learned felt like a tiny victory. I would listen to songs, watch movies, and try to catch every word. I'd sit there, replaying the same line over and over, desperate to understand. Listening was my first friend in learning English. It felt like a secret door to the language. Even when I didn't understand, I felt the rhythm, the emotions, and it made me curious to keep listening. Listening taught me so much more than words. It taught me to feel the language. There were times when I thought I'd never get it. My friends spoke fluently, and I felt left out. I remember sitting silently at gatherings, unable to join the conversation. My heart would ache because I had so much to say but no words to say it with. I used to think, maybe I'll never learn. But giving up felt like letting go of a dream, and I wasn't ready to do that. I wanted to be part of the world where English was a bridge, not a barrier. One day I discovered the power of stories. Reading English stories became my escape. I would dive into them, get lost in the words, and imagine myself in those worlds. These stories taught me more than grammar and vocabulary. They showed me new perspectives, new ways of thinking. With each story, I felt my understanding deepen. It was like discovering a new piece of myself with every page. Stories became my motivation, my reason to push forward, no matter how hard it got. I also found that deep, emotional connections helped me learn faster. When a story or a song touched my heart, it stayed with me. Those words, those phrases, they would echo in my mind for days, even weeks. I started writing down the words that moved me, the sentences that made me feel something. It wasn't just about learning, it was about feeling every part of the language. I realized that when you feel something, you remember it forever. But my journey was filled with challenges. There were days I felt like I was drowning in a sea of words. I would listen to people speak and feel like I was falling behind, unable to catch up. It made me feel small, unworthy, like I didn't belong. Those moments were the hardest. Yet, every time I felt like giving up, I'd think of the people who had overcome even greater struggles. I told myself if they could do it, so can I. And so, I pressed on. My family was a huge support during this journey. They didn't speak English either, but they encouraged me every day. My mother would tell me stories about her dreams and how she always wanted more for me. Her words would make me tear up, and I'd promise myself that I would make her proud. My journey wasn't just for me, it was for her, for everyone who believed in me. Their belief became my strength. Listening remained my most trusted tool. I would listen to conversations, even if I didn't understand everything. I'd listen to podcasts, watch videos, and let the language flow over me. It was like absorbing English through every sense, and slowly I started picking up more words, understanding more phrases. The progress was slow, almost invisible, but it was there. Every little step forward felt like a small miracle. Speaking was the next challenge. My voice would shake, my hands would tremble, and I'd feel embarrassed, afraid of making mistakes. I remember the first time I spoke to a stranger in English. My heart was pounding, my words were jumbled, but the person smiled and listened patiently. That small interaction gave me courage. Speaking wasn't just about words, it was about confidence, about believing in myself. It was the hardest part, but every time I spoke, I felt a little braver. There were many sleepless nights, studying under a dim light, repeating words to myself. My room became a place of dreams and determination. I would sit by my window, watching the world sleep, and repeat English phrases softly, as if I were telling secrets to the night. Those moments were my sanctuary, where I felt most connected to my goal. I was alone, but in those moments I felt a powerful connection to something bigger than myself. I learned to appreciate every struggle, every mistake. Each time I mispronounced a word, I learned something new. I stopped fearing failure and started embracing it. Failure became my greatest teacher, showing me where I needed to grow. The journey was hard, but each hardship was a stepping stone, leading me closer to my goal. Looking back, I realized that those tough times were the most valuable parts of my journey. When I finally started speaking fluently, I felt a wave of emotion. I remembered the days I had struggled, the nights I had cried, and the endless hours of practice. Speaking English was no longer just a skill, it was a testament to my perseverance, my dedication. The language became a part of me, a reminder of everything I had overcome. It was more than words, it was my story, my triumph. To anyone learning English, I want to say, never give up. There will be times when you feel like you're not making progress, times when you feel lost. But every step, no matter how small, brings you closer. Embrace the journey, every tear, every struggle. It's all part of something beautiful. You're not just learning a language, you're discovering your strength, your resilience. As I continued my journey, I realized that English was changing me in ways I never expected. I was no longer just learning a language, I was learning to see the world differently. Every new word was like a window, opening up new views and perspectives I had never seen before. I started noticing how English connected people, how it brought ideas and emotions to life. It made me curious, and that curiosity became my fuel. There were days when I would just sit and listen to people speaking English around me. I didn't care if I understood everything. I just wanted to feel the flow, the rhythm. Listening became my safe space, my way of practicing without pressure. The more I listened, the more I noticed patterns, the way people used certain words, the emotions behind each sentence. It was as if English was a song, and I was learning the melody. One of the most heartwarming moments was when I could finally understand a full conversation without struggling. It was a simple chat between two friends, laughing and sharing stories. I stood there, quietly listening, my heart swelling with happiness. I felt like I had unlocked a secret, like I was part of a world that had once been closed to me. That moment stayed with me, reminding me why I started this journey in the first place. There were still struggles, of course. Sometimes I would say something wrong and people would laugh. At first it hurt and I would feel embarrassed. But then I realized that making mistakes was part of learning. I decided to laugh along, to see every mistake as a lesson. I started enjoying the process, even the challenging parts. Each mistake made me stronger, more determined to keep going. Speaking in English felt like learning to walk all over again. I was shaky, unsure, afraid of falling. But every time I spoke, I felt a little more confident. I started practicing with friends, asking them to correct me, to help me improve. They were patient, encouraging me with kind words and gentle smiles. Their support became my anchor, reminding me that I wasn't alone in this journey. Their encouragement pushed me forward, even on the hardest days. The words I learned were more than just vocabulary, they were pieces of my story. I would find deep words, words that carried emotions, meanings that went beyond language. Words like hope, struggle, perseverance, these words became my companions, helping me express feelings I had held inside for so long. Learning English became a journey of self-discovery, of finding my voice and learning to share it with the world. There was one day I will never forget. I was practicing a speech for a class, trying to express my thoughts clearly. I had spent hours practicing, my heart pounding with nerves. When I finally delivered it, I saw tears in my teacher's eyes. She told me my words had touched her heart. In that moment, I felt like all the struggles, the tears, the late nights had been worth it. I felt a sense of accomplishment that words couldn't fully capture. Through all the struggles, I found that English gave me a new sense of confidence. I began to believe in myself, to see my own potential. This journey was no longer just about learning a language, it was about proving to myself that I could overcome any challenge. Every sentence, every conversation was a small victory, a reminder of how far I had come. As I look back, I realize that learning English has been more than just a skill. It's been a journey of resilience, a path to discovering my own strength. It taught me to keep going, to believe in myself, even when the road was hard. English became my bridge, connecting me to a world of possibilities, of dreams that I once thought were out of reach. I know that the journey is never truly over. There will always be new words to learn, new ways to express myself. But now I embrace each step with gratitude, with the knowledge that I am capable of so much more than I ever imagined. And as I continue to learn, I carry with me the memories of every struggle, every tear, and every victory, knowing that they have made me who I am today. Each step forward felt like adding color to a once gray world. The language started to feel less like a barrier and more like a friend, guiding me through unfamiliar places. I began to see English as more than just words or rules. It became my connection to stories, dreams, and even to parts of myself I never knew existed. With every sentence I formed, I felt a little braver, a little closer to my goal. There were days when I'd feel exhausted, drained from trying so hard. The weight of learning, the constant corrections, the mistakes, it felt endless. But each time I thought about giving up, I remembered those moments of connection, those times when I had managed to truly communicate, even if only in simple words. Those small victories, though quiet, gave me hope. It reminded me that progress isn't always loud sometimes. It's the gentle, steady steps forward that matter most. My journey taught me that patience was as important as effort. English wasn't something I could rush. It was like planting seeds, nurturing them little by little, even when I couldn't see them growing. Slowly, I started to understand that my progress wasn't just in how many words I knew, but in how I used them, how I connected with others. Each word became a stepping stone, each sentence a bridge to new possibilities. One night I had a conversation with a friend in English. We talked about life, about dreams, about our hopes and fears. As we spoke, I realized I wasn't just translating thoughts from my native language. I was thinking in English, feeling in English. It was as if I had crossed an invisible line, stepping fully into a new world. That realization filled me with pride, a quiet pride that was mine alone. I had worked so hard for this moment, and finally it felt like I belonged. Sometimes I would think back to the people who had laughed at my mistakes, the times I had felt small and defeated. Those memories used to hurt, but now they felt distant, like shadows I had left behind. I realized that those moments had made me stronger, that every struggle was a part of my story. My journey wasn't about perfection, it was about resilience, about standing up each time I fell. And in those moments I found a new kind of strength within me. Listening remained my constant companion. Every time I heard English, whether in songs, movies, or conversations, it felt like a reminder of my journey. Listening became my way of staying connected, of reminding myself of why I started. It was through listening that I learned not only words but also emotions, expressions, the way people laughed, the way they showed kindness through language. English wasn't just something to learn, it was something to feel, to experience. As I grew more confident, I started helping others on their own journey. I would share my stories, my struggles, my little tricks for learning. I realized that every person who wanted to learn English was fighting their own battle, facing their own fears. And in helping them, I found a deeper purpose. My journey wasn't just mine, it was a part of a larger story. A story of resilience, of courage, of people coming together despite their differences. There was one particularly touching moment that stays with me even now. I was helping a young girl who was just starting her English journey. She reminded me of myself, her eyes filled with hope and fear. She looked at me, a little nervous, and said, "I don't think I can do it." I took her hand, looked into her eyes, and told her I felt the same way. But if you keep going, one day you'll look back and realize you were always stronger than you knew. In that moment, I felt like my journey had come full circle. I had become the person I once needed, the person who believed, who encouraged, who understood the struggle. My journey wasn't just about learning English anymore, it was about giving back, about sharing the strength and hope I had gained along the way. It was about showing others that the journey, though hard, was worth every single step.